Hello everybody, it's Spooky back with another stadium build. Today we're actually going to be doing a completely uncut video today as we talk about one of the upgrades, or more so buffs, to the Firehose build. Now this is a build that I primarily used against Orisa and Junker Queen and the first season of Stadium. This is really good at pressuring, getting consistent damage, slowing down those tanks, and just really farming up your ultimate very quickly. This relies a lot on just using your primary fire. Now, this build actually can just be adjusted a little bit to play with your secondary fire a little bit, but a lot of the buffs that you get are going to be from using your primary fire. So just for the sake of like making it simple, I usually recommend just using your primary fire for most of this build. Now, obviously, the more you get comfortable with using this build, you can kind of switch back and forth as you feel. You'll probably see that I do that every now and then, obviously when I'm out of range. But a lot of people underestimate how far Extendothermics really goes. It really does reach a really far distance. So don't be afraid to use that primary fire to shoot some people from a distance as well. Remember, you do get a flat 20% speed reduction for anybody that gets hit by your primary fire. I believe that lasts for like 0.5 seconds. I believe it's 0.5. I don't think it's a full second. I think it's just 0.5 flat after you hit them with it. So as long as you're shooting them, they will be slow. And you can see a lot of times I'll do that with Junker Queen, like here, where I'm kind of like backing up and using that to just create distance with heroes that gain more value from being close, right? So like Reaper, sometimes even like Cassidy, even though he doesn't have drop off, like him being able to use that right click on me, I want to get some more distance. So a lot of the times, like I'm doing right here, you know, slowing down the Junker Queen, creating that distance before I go back in. I'm always wanting to make sure that she is at like a non-lethal distance, which is why this build is just so good at it, because naturally you're going to be using your primary fire anyways. So you're going to be getting that extra slow down effect for a lot of these heroes. So anytime I see Junker Queen or Orisa, I consider running a Firehose build. Now, honestly, I believe this actually got buffed, kind of, and for a couple reasons. And I'll talk about that as this video goes on. There's a couple. There's the new power that we got, which actually isn't like the big buff that it received. But there's a couple powers or items that changed that make her a little bit more viable and Firehose a little bit stronger, specifically against Junker Queen. That I would use this for. So we're going to be talking about that as we go on. Maybe some strategies that I use during this build. Obviously, the build code is going to be in the description for you. So if you would like to grab that now, or you can grab it later. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's going to be there. Again, I do update these codes as new patch updates come out, and as kind of new like systems. We kind of tinker with some stuff and try to really maximize the value you get from each of these builds. So if you're watching and want to make sure you're up to date with each new version of these builds or any new builds that we come up with, make sure to subscribe right now. This is the perfect time to do it since we're walking back from spawn, right? Go hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video too if you could. It helps me out a lot. So, all right, as you can see, Junker Queen goes in here. We got Freeze ready. I think I dropped this at her feet. Yep. So nothing wrong with solo ulting a tank, especially if you can get that pick. Double cleanse out though. Love to see it. Love to see double cleanse. As this Junker Queen is trying to pressure us out. Now, they do take a pretty strong lead here in the beginning, but I feel like a lot of it's just maybe some weird team fights that tip in the other direction. This is, which I will tell you, this is going to be a pretty long match. This goes back and forth throughout the entire thing, so we actually get to see quite a lot of this match go through. But you can see this fight. I mean, you're doing pretty well, just getting a lot of value just from keeping our distance, rotating around, and just not dying. So I thought this was going to be a huge freeze here too. I think we get, what, 1, 2? Yeah, okay, never mind. It was big freeze. Sometimes I like throw out a freeze, and I swear, dude, I think that it's going to be a massive freeze, and it looks like it, and everything's great. And then like some Kiri comes in at the last second that I was like coming back from spawn and just like plops a cleanse, and I'm like, oh, dude, come on, man. So it happens so often, I swear. Every time I throw a freeze like that, I'm like, yep, okay, this might not go through. So all right, so we do get a little bit of push here in overtime. So we're going to transition a little bit to more of the strategy side of me talking here. So you guys can kind of get an idea of how to use this. This first round obviously is pretty much just straight Mei gameplay. There's not really, with the amount of like powers and items that we have right now, it's not that much, so our gameplay doesn't change that much. But you can see I'm starting to get in the mindset of it. So they have Econ there, so they win with Bob and Coalescence. Nothing wrong with that. Very unlikely that we win that match after such a hard lead from them in the beginning. So, but going into round 2, you can see we did pick up Extendothermics in the beginning. Going into round 2, we're going to be investing again just in weapon power. And how this kind of works is that we kind of scale up with weapon speed and a little bit of weapon power as we go. Now, there's like a few items, especially in this build guide, it's pretty easy to follow. These are like the best items to grab. Now, you do have to make sure you have Plasma Converter to make sure Advanced Antibiotics procs. So make sure your first item that you get is Plasma Converter. And I'm going to be real, you don't get rid of Plasma Converter until the very, very end. So do not get rid of Plasma Converter, your lifesteal. You're going to need that up until you can trade out your very last purple item for Phantasmic Flux. Now, we did grab Aftermarket Firing Pin and Advanced Nanobiotics. And this is going to increase our weapon speed by an additional 20%. 5% weapon power and 5% move speed that we get from that. And I think we picked up another item. Didn't quite see what that was, but it's in the guide. So if you follow the build guide, you'll see what we have in there. It's pretty straightforward. Just go left and right as you upgrade these items. And if you have a little bit of money left over and you can't afford the next item, but you have enough for like a different like blue item, feel free to grab something else and then just replace it next round. So. All right, round 2, we are poking. We're not trying to force ourselves to be in distance for our primary just yet. You can see I just find out the Junker Queen just gets to one-tap me on round 2. So I'm going to be aware of that now. So collecting information, changing your strategy, right? So now that we know that JQ has, which most likely has dumped all of her ability power into that axe, just to make sure she can get big burst damage. I'm probably going to make sure now for sure that I am keeping my distance from Junker Queen so she cannot get that insane burst damage. It's crazy, dude. Round 2, for real. So, especially if we're going to be building into this, it's not like a huge survival build, so you really do got to play careful. You're kind of glass cannoning with this one. But again, it's good if you're going to be playing against really close range heroes. Like, for example, JQ and Reaper. I mean, honestly, those two alone make this build worth it. And we can always pressure Ashe, but just make sure you maybe like if you don't want to engage with the Ashe, just like play corners and make sure you cut off those sight lines with her while you engage the Junker Queen or something like that. So it'll be really good. So big wall on the JQ, force that out. Remember, we don't have to get the kill. A lot of times we just can force out abilities and then like or cooldowns, and then like the next fight they'll be down those and we can win. So no reason to feed. If you get a big wall, don't feel like you have to like full send it. Let your team do some of the work, you know? If you hit a big wall like that, pressure them out, help them out. But if you don't get the kill, it's completely fine. So we use the freeze here basically to zone. I try to force out the Moira Fate with that so we can finish up this fight pretty easily. Combos with the Diva Bomb pretty well. But now that we're kind of winning the fight, we just full send it here. So we push up using the primary again, trying to slow her down a little bit. And as we go on, like obviously you can see the range on this Extendothermics is crazy. The reason I say to use her primary a lot of the time and not your right click is because with that range that Extendothermics has, you're going to be like unknowingly hitting people behind your target regardless. And remember, every time like the base damage for primary is 70 damage per second. The base damage for your secondary, your icicle, is 85 per second. Obviously, that's barring hitting crits. But if you use your primary and you hit 2 targets at the same time, that's 140 damage per second. Now imagine, like, you're going to be hitting 2 targets quite often. You're going to sometimes be hitting 3. In very few times during your match, you're going to be hitting, like, the whole team. And you're going to see that your ult charge goes up like crazy during that. So do not underestimate the power of primary, especially with Extendothermics. With Extendothermics, it makes it so much easier to get those random hits behind. Now you can kind of like big brain it. You can like, you can basically like shoot and then try to angle yourself to where like even though you're shooting the target you're looking at, you're still angling to hit things behind it. And that's kind of what I do. You'll see me play is that I'm pressuring a specific target, but I start to angle my position to where I'm also hitting people behind them, just so I can double or triple my pressure. So, all right, round 3 now. Let's take a look at what we got here. We're going to be grabbing Iceberg. Now, the reason we're grabbing Iceberg here is because we're going to be stacking up with Cold Blaster. Now, I do have Cold Blaster on round 5. I've updated this build to put Cold Blaster on round 7. I do think the Frost Armor on round 5 is going to be more useful in most of your games. So I did update that in the guide, so what you see in this video isn't exactly what I have in the build, but it's basically the same thing. So just follow the new build that we have. After we did testing, I like the survivability in round 5. So now we're just upgrading all of our greens to blues now. You know, we get Techno Leech, we get Stockpile, we get Talon Mod. Now we have all blues. Now, especially for this build, I definitely recommend do not get any purples until you have all of your blues. The best and most efficient use of your items in this build, and a lot of builds honestly, is to upgrade get all of your greens, and then once you have all greens, start upgrading to blues, and then once you've maxed all your blues, start upgrading your blues to purples. To me, it's the most efficient way to do it. As you get farther down into the like the epic level items, they become less efficient per credit, but they're stronger overall, right? So it's in your best interest to start out with getting, you know, all your blues, because you're going to be more powerful overall, especially with this build, because we're just playing with weapon power and weapon speed in this build for the most part. So we definitely want to make sure each round we're maximizing our potential, how much weapon speed, how much weapon power we get each round. So I definitely recommend doing that. So as you can see, we're keeping the distance on the JQ here. Reaper comes at us. We use that ice block. I think I use a wall. No, he backs up here. So we get the freeze almost instantly. You can see with the amount of weapon power we have now, just upgrading to all those blues, and the collateral damage that we got, we just get an insane amount of all charge now, which is awesome. We love that. Especially with this build, in this map in particular, obviously very strong chokes. They have to push through as a team, so that makes us very strong here on first point. Looks real good. So take a quick breath here. Whew, I've been talking for a while, haven't I? Shut up, Spooky. All right. Second point on Anubis. Hit a little wall here on the JQ, force that out. Don't want to get one shot by her axe, so I make sure I use my cryo early to block that. Now, it also stops her from getting her lifesteal on that, so I kind of recommend, if she's building into her axe, always block when she goes for it. That's just going to prevent her from getting the lifesteal and the sustain she needs to live through the engagement. So a lot of times she'll die after you block because she doesn't get her lifesteal and then your team kills her anyway. So we play in this room. I will say, if you're a Mei player, try to play in this room more often. I've found a lot of my engagements in here become very easy, obviously because it's really easy to hit a wall. I have corners, and I have that little mini there in the corner to play around. This, if you're playing the game and Anubis and you're a Mei player, I play with this a little bit. Play in this room. Don't walk on a point that much, especially if you have extendothermics, you're playing with your right clicks. If you're playing like an AP build, obviously you have to be on point a little bit more. But if you're playing Mei here, try that room a little bit, because I'm telling you, man, I feel like I get so much value in there as whenever I play. So honestly, even with an AP build, like sometimes you guys have probably seen my clips either on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, which, by the way, this is a great time. Go follow me on TikTok, please, 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 please. We've been trying to get to 10K followers for like 4 years now, dude. So if you guys haven't followed me on TikTok, you don't have to watch me on TikTok, but if you could follow me on TikTok, that would be absolutely huge. So I'd appreciate it. That's probably the best thing you can do for me right now if you guys want to help keep me doing what I'm doing. So all right, so we are on to the final points here. Our diva gets a little bit of picks here. This kind of goes back and forth. I can't really tell if we're gonna win this fight or not. But you can see we held out for a really long time there on point, playing around with that. So as we get up here, Genji gets a cool pick. Looks like it's turning in our favor a little bit. Now this fight isn't over yet, though. I think this fight takes a very long time. I can't remember if it's this game or not. But man, I'm sure you guys have played on this map plenty enough to know that this point in particular, dude, these fights can go on forever and ever. Which for Mei is great, man. It's so easy to get like a lot of team collateral damage with either an AP build or this build. Is really good. It's really good. All right, so we get our first dub, brings it to 1-2. We're gonna be going on to the Redwood Dam. I feel like I can never remember what this map's name is. You know, it's a weird map name, and I'm always like the forest one. Redwood Dam. Okay, Redwood Dam. We can remember that. I promise. All right, so as you can see, we're keeping that plasma converter now. After we kind of upgraded to all our blues, we're going to sell the Techno Leech and then use that to buy one of the purples. Now, the reason I do that is because Techno Leech isn't really a strong item on its own. I'd rather just have 1,000 credits go into lifesteal instead of spend 3,000 credits just to get 5% weapon power. So I sell that, bring the plasma converter back, and then we grab Focus Flurries and Himalayan Hat. Now, this is one of the items I wanted to talk about. I don't know if we grab it. Yeah, we do grab it. So we're able to upgrade quite a bit here to the next round. We grab Himalayan Hat and Booster Jets. Now, this just skyrockets our weapon speed. So we have Focus Flurries, which gives us 15% in the expanded clip. We have Himalayan Hat, which is 10% attack speed. And then while Blizzard is activated, you get an additional 10%. Which sounds not that great, and it's like you'd think only during your ultimate, but we checked, and this does proc on your wall. So if you do have the iceberg, which is part of the reason why I grabbed that, anytime you throw up your wall, you're going to get that additional 10%. And the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to max out our peak attack speed that we can get with Mei using this item. So we have that and Booster Jets. So that in total is an additional 55% attack speed with those 3 items, which you can see right here is just insane how much flat speed we get. And we haven't even dropped our wall yet to get that additional 10%. So you can see it's just an insane amount of weapon speed. Now, obviously, I'm not using my primary because I'm not in range of anybody. We go down pretty quick to the Ash. At this point, I'm realizing that Ash is going to be one-tapping me quite a bit, or at least 2-tapping. So I'm going to make sure that I'm playing outside of her line of sight as much as I can. Now, this is a great angle here to use that primary. You can see as they push up. Really easy for me to pressure the entire team with my primary, which is kind of part of the value why primary can be really good is because it pressures people really well. So it's kind of that unseen value, or I guess you can see it, but like, you don't really see it on the stat board, right? The amount of pressure using your primary on like stacked up teams can do. So it's really, really good if you want to think about it like that. A lot of Mei is like, which a lot of people don't understand. It's like Mei typically is not a high damage hero. Now, obviously in Stadium, she can become one. But a lot of her value comes from pressuring people either with her primary or with her wall or with her freeze. It's a lot of like utility stuff. So you don't really see that on the scoreboard very often, which, you know, if you're a Mei player, you know what I'm talking about. You get the people like, oh my god, Mei, bro, you only have insert X amount of damage. Oh my god, bro, what are you doing? I've heard everything, dude. After playing her for 8 years, 9 years, however long it's been, I've heard everything. And trust me, no one's ever gonna say, wow, Mei, that's a lot of damage. They're always gonna say, wow, Mei, that's not enough damage. So that's just kind of how it is. Now with this build, however, there is quite a lot of damage. I will say that. So we try to get the freeze on the JQ there. She obviously just walks out of it, but you know, sometimes it'd be like that. Sometimes I think they're pushing up, and then they just happen to be backing up the moment I press my ultimate, and it just doesn't pay off. So, all right, so here we are. We are coming back, and we're looking to finish up this fight. We've got a pretty early lead here. We got a lot of value there with our Diva on the front line in this fight. They used a lot of ultimates, a lot of their econ to win that last fight, so we're looking pretty good here. JQ comes up, really out of position, so I'm probably going to look for a wall here. Maybe. Does Spooki look for a wall? He does. Okay. Okay, we block Axe with that. You know, that's smart. Sorry, I'm basically VOD reviewing my own gameplay now at this point, so that's just how it is. All right, so again, pressuring the JQ, keeping that distance. We can see that she's, if she can't really do anything, it means her team really is going to struggle to get much done. So have another freeze ready pretty quickly. Try to kill her, but man, you can see those healers are just keeping her up, dude. Which is fine. You know, we force out some cleanse. It's just going to be like that right now. Where, like, they're just going to keep her up. So, but again, that's why we're trying to pressure. We're trying to make it to where it's easier for our whole team to pressure. Like, to shoot the JQ more by slowing her down. Makes her much more vulnerable to damage from my whole team, which is really where we're going to have to take these dubs in these fights. Is just keeping him at bay and then getting those poke damages out. So, all right, coming back from spawn now. They win another fight. I don't think we have too much econ here, but we will be. I think we'll be grabbing another freeze before the round ends because it charges up so quick with this build. So I kind of expect to have a freeze usually just about every fight at this point. And you can see we're already at 86%. And that's just shooting the Junker Queen and the Reapers. So, all right. So here we go with the freeze. Use the wall to separate the Reaper off of me so I don't die immediately. Drop the freeze. You can see she goes down so quick. She was already taking the freeze from the wall. We forced the C9 off the point, so we're kind of killing it right now. So bringing it back 2-2. There are the stats if you want to see them. Good amount of almost 7k damage. Was looking pretty good. But you'll see it gets even higher. This is probably the highest damage game I've ever done. And I'll show you the stats at the end of the game because they're very, very large. Like it's a lot of stats. So I definitely recommend sticking around to see these last rounds because it's just crazy. So again, we're just upgrading our blues to purples now, going left to right down the list. I've ordered these of importance. Now, if you do feel, this is why I think I kind of grabbed this early. If you do feel like you're being pressured too much or your survivability isn't where you need it, you can grab Phantasmic Flux. But with the new build, I've switched over Frost Armor on round 5 to give us that survivability. So don't feel like you have to grab Phantasmic Flux there. I think I decide against it here and just go full glass cannon. But that round 5, because like Cold Blaster is not like, it's situational. It's good when you can proc it. It's really good when you can proc it, but it's not often that you get to proc it because enemies don't just stand in your wall, right? They don't stand in your mini blizz. The only time you can get solid use out of it is during your ultimate. So that's why we switched around in the build. You'll see Frost Armor in round 5. So don't feel like you have to get Phantasmic Flux. That extra 100 armor is going to help you out with survivability a lot. Especially if you still have Plasma Converter, which you should. You should still have Plasma Converter to get that lifesteal. I'm telling you, that lifesteal is so important. 10% lifesteal and then dump the rest into weapon power. You'll have plenty of self-sustain. All right, so coming into the next one, we upped our damage again, and basically the rest of the game is just that. It's just upgrading all of our damage until we can't upgrade anything else, and then we upgrade Plasma Converter to Phantasmic Flux to get our 15% weapon lifesteal. Okay, so we're pushing up here. This is a fun map, by the way. A lot of opportunities to get some collateral damage here with Extendothermics. So we start out by poking a little bit until the fight really starts breaking out. Once they're in range, I'm going to start hitting that primary. So we throw up the wall out the JQ, pressure her out. Remember, I still don't want to die. I'm very flimsy, so I can't like you can see this is like if I'm looking back on this now, me walking into that point, I'm like, dude, why are you doing that? Like you're gonna go down so quick, and you do, you know. You see that immediately. So remember, you are a glass cannon. Play your corners, get value where you can, but do not chase kills if it means you're gonna die. And that's the mistake I made right there as I saw that. So this is another great reason why watching your gameplay back really shows a lot of the habits that you have, and how to fix them. You know, think about it a little bit. So JQ comes in, I create my distance, I use my primary, abusing the fact that I have insane range on my primary. So rotating around, getting those angles. And you can see she just gets melted, dude. At this point, using this build is like, it really is like just using a hot knife through butter. You're just cooking through stuff. And it feels really good, man. But again, I wouldn't use this. I mean, I guess you could use this against Ryan if he doesn't really have much speed. Just because you're going to force him to hold his shield and then the shield goes down. So like you could use this in other things, but like if they're running like Dive Reinhardt with like a lot of speed, you're not gonna break his shield before he gets to you. So this is why I only really recommend this build when it's like you can like for sure get solid value from it. But the nice thing about starting with this is that you can kind of shift away from it as well if you feel like it's not working. But yeah, I wouldn't really run this against Rhine. Maybe against Sigma would be fine. Diva's gonna be a little too speedy for you. Zarya, I really wouldn't worry about Zarya. So you're just gonna charge Zarya like crazy. But yeah, it's a lot of rotating. So you can see we kind of play this, create our distance. Junker Queen, you can see, has noticed that we've been pressuring her from like a really far distance this entire time. So she's grabbed that jumping axe. And I really only see Junker Queens really grab this when when I run this Firehose build, because they know that they're trying to get close, but I'm not letting them get close. So they have to get something to like force it, which is fine, you know. Now we just got to play a little bit extra for it too. All right, so we get rezzed. Back up into the fight. Huge wall here. I actually really like this one. And Junker Queen's just flying around the map. It's crazy. Junker Queen ult comes out. We have our freeze again. Toss that out right on the JQ because she's down her shout. Now, again, they might cleanse it, which is fine. A lot of times you might just have to use freeze to like force out cleanses, especially when Kiri has 2. Like at that point, dude, there's no point worrying about cleanse, like tracking it, you know, to be like, all right, cleanse is down, let's do it. Because like even if she uses 2 cleanse, like honestly, man, she might have like cooldown reduction or something. So it's I just tend to like, if they're running Kiri in Stadium, I just throw it down on the tank. If it forces out cleanse, great. If they're on cooldown for cleanse and I get the kill, that's also great. But we farm it up so quick. Like you can see, we just got back from spawn, dude, and we're at 50% all charge. How much damage this build does and farms it up is just so quick. So, all right, push it up here. Waiting for our team to make some space just so we can push up safely. Junker Queen uses your jump. We're still playing safe. We hear the Reaper behind. I use that cryo because I don't know how much weapon power that Reaper has. And a lot of times it might be misleading because he might hit you with a few pellets. And then he hits you with 1 good shot and it just deletes your entire like health bar. So if I'm not really aware, I'll block sometimes. It's better safe than sorry. It's kind of my rule with cryo. I'd rather use my cryo and not need it than to not use it and die, you know. Much better usage there. Now we went round 3. And at this point, you can probably kind of tell we're at the point where we've scaled so much that it's getting to the point where like we're going to be melting anything that we shoot at. And at this point, we're just going to keep scaling it up just a little bit more. So again, I've dropped the build code in the description. So if you guys need that build code, feel free to grab it. The share code's obviously on screen as well. As I'm going through this. Oh, sorry, no, it's not on the screen. That was a different one. So the build code is in the description. Go grab that. And while you're there, make sure to go like the video while we're watching this. And thank you guys for making it this far onto the video. You guys are the true G's. You guys are here still watching, man. You guys really, you're doing the work, you know. You're taking notes. Now, I do recommend after you listen to this and like watch this, go try it out, you know. Do the same thing. Apply what I'm talking about into your own gameplay. Like, do it right away. I'm telling you. Like, watch this and go play like a game or two. And apply these like how I've been talking about, like positioning, using that distance, just so you don't lose this information. Because if you just watch these videos, it's not going to stick, right? You have to go into your matches with like a purpose for getting better, you know? Now, obviously, just playing is one way to get better, but playing with like a little bit of a purpose is probably, in my opinion, the most efficient way at getting better at Overwatch. So, make sure to go in with that. So, all right, Firehose build. We're on round 6. We have upgraded more of our power. I think at this point we have Eye of the Spider. So we have some pretty heavy weapon items right now. Obviously, we still have our plasma converter for our lifesteal, and I believe it's either it was either this round or next round. I think next round we grab our Phantasmic Flux to finish it out. So pushing up here. You can see I'm being much more mindful of my corners, making sure I have something to play around and not exposing myself to multiple angles while I'm engaging. For example, I'm not shooting the Junker Queen while also being in line of sight of like everybody else. I'm using the bot for cover. And this is great, man. When I see that team push into that right room, I know that my primary is going to get some massive value because they're all peeking that corner. So that's when that's like those rare opportunities where you can get 5 collateral shots with your primary. Now remember, at this point, 5 collateral shots, and this is just for theory, all right? 5 collateral shots, like let's say we've got like 80% weapon power now, some combination of weapon speed. So we're doing like base probably around 140 damage with our primary. Now you multiply that by 5, and we've got like what, close to 750. Sorry, it's 710. We're doing 710 damage per second when we're shooting 5 people at the same time. So like when they're in those rooms, man, I'm looking for those opportunities because those are crazy moments. All right, looking pretty good here on this fight. Again, a lot of it's just rotating, playing those corners, and then using our primary depression. So it's pretty much straightforward. You can see our strategies don't really shift as we play, which is kind of why I like this build. Is that like you don't have to play differently. The moment you have extended thermics, you're basically just doing the same thing with the entire time. Now, obviously, you have to adapt to how they play, how to change these up a little bit. But that's really it, man. It's playing real safe, playing corners, and then using that to pressure out. We go down to JQ. You can see she just yoink. Look at that distance. That's crazy, man. I'm always confused at like what the hitbox on Axe is. I swear, man, it's always so much bigger than what I think it is. Like that replay right there proves it, man. I feel like she wasn't even close to me. All right, we're going to our defense. Diva Bomb comes out. We lose our Genji, and we're kind of in a weird pickle right now because we don't really have our Diva with us, and we're basically just soloing, taking all of this, like the Kitsune Rush and the Moira ult. So we got caught out of position there pretty hard. I didn't think I was going to be making it out of that. All right, Baby Diva in. Like at this point, let's see, we have what, 16 seconds. I'm pretty convinced that we probably are just going to lose this round. And this is purely just out of being staggered and having some econ diffs. So, but there's always a chance. I always play for the dub here. So I'm trying to get set up to make sure we get a secure touch. Now, I see that my team's able to touch it now, so I'm going to try to back up. I try to get to that Mega, but again, that Junker Queen, man, just eats me up. Eats me up. So if you need any more proof to play away from Junker Queen in this instance, there you go. There's some more proof. All right, so Moira gets the Coalescence pick. This is where I'm like, okay, wait, this actually might be doable. Junker Queen gets the Moira pick, so again, this is just going back and forth, and the D-back. At this point, I'm like, okay, yeah, this might be done. Going back in, trying to play a little bit safer. Again, we're the person that has to touch, and we just go down quick. So you can see, again, this is a very glass cannon build. So if you ever feel like you are not getting the time to get your damage in, I always recommend grabbing more survivability instead of trying to solve it with more damage. Because remember, you are only as valuable as long as you are alive. So if you have like 1,000,000 damage, but you live for like 0.1 seconds and you can't get a shot off, you need to grab more survivability. At this point, remember, my favorite item for burst damage is Divine Intervention. That's on your survival tab. Only costs 9,500, and it's basically a flat 20% damage reduction for anything over 100 damage that you receive. If you feel like your burst, like usually it's burst damage that you're going to go down to. If you feel like that is a problem for you, please grab Divine Intervention. If you feel like it might even become a problem, grabbing that item is never a bad idea. So we upgrade our last item here, Plasma Converter, to Phantasmic Flux. And everything else looks pretty good. I'm basically just trying to see if there's anything else I want to upgrade. Since I have a surplus of credits, but I think everything on here is probably maxed out on what I want. So we have what, the Closer, we have Eye of the Spider, we have Phantasmic Flux. So these are all really great items. But again, if you feel like you're going down too quick, please do not be afraid to trade out one of your damage items for Divine Intervention. It's going to help you out so much. It's one item and it helps you out so much with receiving damage. All right, so we are into our final round here, and I'm just now realizing that I did not grab a cup of water before I did this talk through. So let's try to get through this last round without needing any water, because man, my mouth is getting dry. Let's just say that. All right, so this last map. Now, this is where, like, if I'm thinking about this right now, we have very high damage. I probably would be doing a lot more right clicks on this map, mainly because of the amount of space and distance we have. So this is where I'm like, okay, I need to be okay with doing right clicks and playing safe. It's gonna be fine. I don't need the extra damage that we got. And then, but if I see opportunities, right, I'm gonna play for those primary fire opportunities. So this left side here, look for these. We can see I'm already going for some right clicks here and there. Creating that distance with that Junker Queen. Being aware of it. Not being afraid to use my cryo here if I feel like I'm going to get pressured out too quick. You can see, man, that's just 3 axes in a row. This is some massive collateral here. So on the point, just trying to slow people down. It's looking really good. Now, again, on this round 7, remember, we have Iceberg and we have Cold Blaster. And the nice thing about grabbing Cold Blaster is that when they're in your mini blizzards, they receive 20% extra damage, but only when you're using your primary. So this is where, like, really making sure the primary is good, especially in your freeze. But they have to be in your freeze, which makes it really hard to proc again because people tend to leave your freeze, right? If you put a wall up and they're slowing them down, they try to get out of it. So, but again, it does find some instances where it gets some pretty good value. Especially against Joker Queen, especially against Orisa. All right, so we are using these sight lines now with our distance, just spamming this out with our right click. I don't need to push up because again, we're going to do plenty of damage with our right clicks from this distance, so we're chilling out. But now that I see that they're pushing through these like tight chokes, that's when I start laying on the primary because I know that multiple people are going to be peeking those corners, and that's where I'm going to be getting a lot of the value. And even if I'm using my primary on that corner, a lot of people won't peek that corner because they're seeing my primary fire going across there. So a lot of people will choose to not peek, which makes it much easier to kill the people that have already gone through. So that's why I said a lot of it is about like pressure, you know, pressuring those angles so people, it makes it harder for people to push around, is a really good instance of that. So we've got freeze ready to go now. Throw up the wall. Don't know what happened there. Freeze comes out to zone it out a little bit. This is obviously the end of the match, so I just throw this early to make sure we can get a nice free cap, and then we nice and easy. So this was, I'm gonna tell you, this was my first game of the day, and my first game of the day is always my worst game of the day. And I'm gonna tell you, this build just worked really quickly. Like I literally woke up, turned on Overwatch, played the match, and got this dub. And you can see the credits we got there were just insane. 58,000 credits. That's insane, man. Or sorry, 58,000 damage. We got 88,000 credits. Not the highest amount of credits, but I think it's probably the most damage I've done in a match, in a stadium match so far. So obviously very powerful, very glass cannony. This is the upgraded Firehose version 2. So please, 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 if you would like to grab that, please grab it now. Again, like the video, subscribe, but most importantly, go follow me on TikTok at Spooki Show. Go grab your phone right now or go on your desktop, search Spooki Show, and please just follow my channel. That would be so freaking awesome if you could do that. So anyways, that's the build guide for today, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it spooky. Bye.